was talking to a friend of mine who happens to be a pretty smart guy. And he was explaining to me that a diamond is just carbon, same stuff as coal, until it's put under incredible pressure, deep in the earth for a long time. It doesn't happen overnight. And I thought that was just fascinating, because to me it sounded a lot like the story of life. We start as raw material, ordinary, common. And the question is, will we stay common, or will we submit ourselves to the kind of pressure that turns us into something rare, something valuable? Now let me tell you something. Pressure comes to everybody. It's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when and how. The question is never whether life will put you under strain. The question is what you will become because of it. Some people, when the pressure comes, they break. Others bend and then straighten back up. And a few, just a few, allow the pressure to transform them. See, pressure is the test of character. Anybody can look good when it's springtime. Anybody can smile when the bills are paid and the children are healthy. But when winter comes, that's when you find out who's been preparing. That's when you find out what you're made of. And the promise is this: if you stand the test, if you let it work on you instead of running from it, the very same pressure that could have crushed you will refine you. Now here's the key. Pressure by itself doesn't guarantee a diamond. Coal under pressure in the wrong conditions stays coal. It takes pressure plus heat plus time plus the right environment. And that's exactly how it is with people. Pressure alone just makes people bitter. But pressure combined with the right philosophy, with discipline, with patience, that's where transformation takes place. Some people run from the very conditions that would have made them great. They say it's too hard. They quit the business. They leave the relationship. They walk away from the challenge. And I'm not saying there aren't times to change course, but I am saying don't quit just because it's uncomfortable. Growth and comfort never ride the same horse. When I started building a business, every day felt like pressure, rejection, disappointment, people telling me no, people not showing up. I thought, man, this just isn't working. But then I realized that was the point. It was supposed to be hard. It was supposed to stretch me. Because if it were easy, why wasn't everybody else doing it? Because if it were easy, what would it make of me? Not much. But by staying in the pressure, I was becoming more than I had been before. So the question for you today is this: what pressure are you under? What weight do you feel pressing on your shoulders? Don't despise it. Don't curse it. Ask instead what the pressure is trying to make of you. What kind of diamond is it shaping? Because here's the truth. Success is not so much what you achieve, it's who you become. And the becoming process requires pressure. Without it, you stay soft. With it, you develop edges, clarity, brilliance. Now, when we talk about pressure creating diamonds, we've got to remember something important. It doesn't happen on the surface. A diamond doesn't form out in the open air where it's easy, where the sun is shining and the breeze is gentle. No, it happens deep down, hidden, unseen. And that's how life works. The greatest changes take place when nobody's watching. See, the world loves the finished diamond, the sparkle, the brilliance, the price tag. But it forgets the years of pressure in the dark that produced it. How many times have you seen somebody look at someone else with money and say how lucky they are? Nice car. So lucky. So lucky to have a big house. So lucky to have money put away in the bank. No, they're not lucky. They went through seasons of pressure you never saw. They endured the grind. They stayed put while others ran away. They faced rejection, ridicule, and failure, and they didn't cave in. I remember a time when I had to drive hundreds of miles just to give a seminar to a handful of people. Sometimes only 2 or 3 showed up. Now you might say, Jim, why not skip it? Why not wait until the crowd is bigger? But no, those nights were my diamond years. That was pressure working on me, learning to give my best even when the room was nearly empty. And you know what happened? Those small nights prepared me for the big nights. By the time the crowd was large, I was ready. So don't despise small beginnings. Don't resent the season of obscurity. That's where the pressure is doing its work. It's better to sweat in practice than bleed in the game. It's better to go through pressure in the dark than collapse in the spotlight. Now, here's another angle you can look at it from. Pressure is not only something life gives you, it's also something you can give yourself. That's called discipline. Discipline is self-imposed pressure. Getting up earlier than you feel like, saving money when you'd rather spend it, reading the book when the TV looks easier. That's pressure you decide on. And that pressure, applied daily, steadily, forms your character. Mr. Schoaf always used to say, don't wish it was easier, Jim. Wish you were better. Because wishing for no pressure is wishing to stay coal. Wishing for less challenge is wishing to stay ordinary. The wise wish is to grow stronger, to increase your capacity so the pressure doesn't crush you, but crafts you. And remember, pressure isn't permanent. A season of hardship is not a life sentence. It's a phase. Like the seasons of the year, it will pass. Winter doesn't last forever. But if you don't endure winter, you never see spring. If you don't endure the shaping, you never see the diamond. So today I want to remind you, don't just look at the pressure you're under and say, why me? Look at it and say, what for? Maybe the business setback isn't punishment. It's preparation. Maybe the health struggle isn't just pain. It's teaching patience and gratitude. Maybe the financial difficulty isn't the end. It's sharpening your resourcefulness. Pressure always has a purpose. The tragedy is not pressure. The tragedy is wasting it. If life puts you in the furnace, don't crawl out too soon. Stay in long enough to let the heat do its work. Stay in long enough to come out shining. A diamond isn't just beautiful, it's useful. It cuts through the hardest material. It serves. And that picture pulled me through. That's why I tell people, don't just work hard. Work hard for a reason. You see, pressure will try to convince you that it's permanent, but it's not. The emotion of the moment always feels endless. When you're under stress, the mind says that it will always be this way, but it won't. Just like the earth shifts and over time produces a diamond, your life can shift too. What feels unbearable now may be the very season you'll thank later. I used to wonder why things were so tough until I realized it was supposed to be tough. Easy doesn't change you. Easy doesn't demand growth. And growth is the price of becoming valuable. Value isn't handed out, it's earned. Just like the earth doesn't hand out diamonds on the surface, life doesn't hand out greatness without a struggle. So I ask you, what if you changed the way you looked at pressure? What if, instead of believing it was killing you, you began to see it as shaping you? What if stress wasn't the enemy, but the sculptor? Suddenly, the same weight that felt like punishment begins to feel like purpose. And here's a truth I've seen over and over. The stronger the pressure, the greater the potential. Coal becomes a diamond, not in comfort, but in intensity. And people, ordinary people, become extraordinary in the very same way. But only if they stay long enough, only if they don't run from the process, only if they commit to becoming more. Because the world doesn't need more coal. It needs more diamonds. People of strength, people of clarity, people who've been through the fire and come out shining. One thing I've learned about pressure is this: it doesn't ask your permission. It doesn't leave you a little note that says, "Would now be a good time." No, it arrives uninvited. The job loss, the business setback, the strained relationship. And right there you have a choice: resist and complain, or accept and adapt. Now here's what separates people. Some let pressure define them. They lose a job and decide they're a failure. A relationship ends and they conclude they must be broken. But others let pressure refine them. They lose a job and choose to sharpen their skills. A relationship ends and they learn what they didn't see before. Same event, different outcome. The deciding factor is philosophy. Philosophy is what keeps pressure from being destructive. Without philosophy, pressure feels meaningless. With the right philosophy, pressure becomes a lesson. And here's the good news: you get to choose your philosophy. Nobody chooses it for you. But here's the thing: you have to choose it every day. Pressure is like weights in the gym. Without them, there's no muscle. But too many people walk into life's gym and complain about the weights. They say they're too heavy. They say it hurts. Well, of course it hurts. That's the point. The pain of today produces the strength of tomorrow. I remember traveling with some of the top leaders in business. They seemed so confident, so polished. And I assumed they must have been born that way. But when I asked, every one of them had a story of pressure, a story of nearly quitting, a story of rejection, failure, or hardship. They weren't polished from the beginning. The polish came from the grind. That's why I tell people, don't envy the diamond without respecting the pressure. Don't admire the brilliance while ignoring the years of heat and weight it took to get there. Admiration without understanding leads to jealousy. But admiration with understanding leads to discipline. And discipline is how you put yourself under chosen pressure before life forces it on you. If you discipline yourself, life doesn't have to discipline you as harshly. If you save money, you don't face the pressure of debt. If you eat well and exercise, you don't face the pressure of disease in the same way. If you study and learn, you don't face the pressure of ignorance. So pressure can either be your enemy or your ally. It depends on whether you choose it early or it finds you unprepared. One way or another, you'll face it. And let me remind you, pressure reveals potential. You don't even know what you're capable of until the weight is on your shoulders. You think you can't handle it, but then you do. You think you'll collapse, but somehow you stand. And after that, your confidence grows. Not because life got easier, but because you proved to yourself you were stronger than you thought. That's the diamond moment. Not just when the world sees you shining, but when you know inside that you can handle it. You can endure. You can keep going. That's when you realize you're not the same person anymore. Here's something I want you to write on your mental chalkboard today. Pressure without response is wasted. Life doesn't just measure what happens to you. It measures what you do with it. See, everyone gets tested. Everyone gets seasons of stress, but not everyone responds the same. Some fold, some fight, some flourish. And the difference isn't the pressure, it's the response. When I was struggling in my 20s, I kept thinking if only the pressure would stop, then I could succeed. But later I realized that was backwards. The pressure wasn't going away. The world wasn't going to suddenly hand me success. What had to change was me. I needed to increase my capacity to respond. Capacity, that's the real goal. Don't wish for lighter loads, build stronger shoulders. Don't wish for fewer problems, develop more skills. Because once you increase your capacity, what used to feel like crushing weight suddenly feels manageable. Same pressure, bigger person. Now let me give you an example. Imagine two people carrying buckets of water. One has a little pail, the other has a large one. The river doesn't care. The flow is the same. But the one with greater capacity walks away with more. And life is the same way. The pressure is distributed unevenly depending on the size of your character. Build more character, and suddenly the same stress that breaks others strengthens you. But let me add this. Diamonds aren't just strong, they're cut, they're shaped. Pressure gets you halfway. Refinement finishes the job. That's why mentorship is so valuable. Someone to shape you, guide you, polish you. Pressure creates the diamond, but guidance brings out the brilliance. Mr. Schoaf was that for me. He didn't reduce the pressure in my life. He increased it. He raised the standard. He expected more. He said, Jim, you can't just get by. You've got to get better. And in the moment, that felt like more. At 25, I was embarrassed by my situation. That pressure forced me to learn the value of $1, to respect time, to save instead of spend. If I hadn't felt the weight of being broke, I'd have never learned how to become wealthy. So even financial pressure is a gift if you let it push you toward wisdom. Now let's look at health. Your body is under constant pressure. Stress, age, environment, habits, they all apply weight. And what you choose to do with that pressure determines your vitality. Exercise itself is just chosen pressure. Lifting weights is pressure on your muscles. Running is pressure on your lungs, but that chosen stress makes you stronger. It's no different than life. You either avoid the pressure and stay weak, or embrace it and build resilience. Relationships, yes, they bring pressure too. Living with someone, working with someone, raising children, it's not easy. Friction is natural. But remember, friction polishes. It smooths the rough edges. If you run, every time the relationship gets tense, you never get the diamond. The misunderstandings, the compromises, the adjustments, those are the very pressures that build depth. Love without testing is shallow. Love tested by pressure can endure. And leadership, that's pressure multiplied. The pressure isn't just your own, it's the weight of others depending on you. When you're a leader, every decision carries consequence. Every action ripples. And yes, it's heavy. But that weight develops wisdom, vision, steadiness. A leader who has never felt pressure cannot be trusted. It's the pressure that qualifies them. Think about it. The greatest leaders we admire were not formed in comfort. They were forged in struggle. They endured sleepless nights, impossible choices, constant resistance. But instead of cracking, they crystallized. The pressure gave them clarity. And that's why they could stand when others fell. Here's what I've noticed. Pressure in one area can strengthen you in another. The discipline you learn in finances carries over into health. The endurance you develop in relationships carries over into business. Life is interconnected. If you handle pressure in one part, you're better equipped everywhere. Now let's address something important. Some people think pressure is punishment. Why is this happening to me? Why do I have to suffer? But pressure isn't punishment. It's preparation. Punishment ends in pain. Preparation ends in strength. And the difference is perspective. When I was broke, I could have seen it as punishment, but I chose to see it as training. When I faced rejection in business, I could have quit in bitterness. Instead, I decided that it was teaching me persistence. You see, that little shift in view turned pain into progress. So ask yourself, where is the pressure in your life right now? And then ask, what is it preparing me for? Because every pressure has a lesson. Every weight has a purpose. And let me add this, the bigger the dream, the heavier the pressure. Don't pray for the pressure of a diamond life if you're not willing to carry the weight of a diamond process. That's the law. Want small results? Face small pressure. Want big results? Be ready for big weight. The good news is you can handle it. Not all at once, but gradually. The earth doesn't turn carbon into diamonds overnight. It takes years, even centuries. And in the same way, your growth will take time. But if you stay with it, if you keep your philosophy strong, the result is guaranteed. Pressure has one final gift. It calls you to maturity. It says, step up, grow up, take responsibility. And that's a call we all need to answer. Because the world doesn't reward excuses. The world rewards results. And pressure is life's way of asking, are you ready? When the storm comes, the child asks, why me? The adult asks, what now? Maturity is the ability to stop blaming, stop complaining, and start responding. And pressure is the test. I used to blame everything: the government, the economy, my boss, my family. I had a whole list of reasons why I wasn't doing well. And guess what? None of those reasons paid the bills. None of them changed my life. Then one day, under the pressure of embarrassment, I decided to take responsibility. And from that day forward, everything began to change. Responsibility is a form of pressure. It's the weight of ownership. It's saying, this is mine to fix, mine to build, mine to carry. And though it feels heavy, that's the very pressure that grows you up. Without responsibility, you stay a child forever. With it, you become a diamond. Now, here's something to remember. Pressure doesn't weaken character. It exposes it. If you've cut corners, if you've been dishonest, pressure will bring it to the surface. If you've been faithful, if you've been diligent, pressure will reveal that too. That's why it's better to live clean before the pressure comes. Then, when the weight is applied, you'll stand, not collapse. I've watched people under pressure turn bitter, and I've watched people under the same pressure turn better. The difference is choice. The pressure is neutral. It's your response that decides the outcome. So today, here's what I'm asking of you. Don't wish the pressure away. Embrace it. Don't pray for less challenge. Pray for more wisdom. Don't ask for fewer problems. Ask for greater skill. That shift in mindset transforms everything. Because the truth is, the future belongs to those who can handle pressure. Leadership, wealth, influence, contribution, they're all reserved for people who can carry weight without breaking. And here's the promise. If you can handle the pressure of today, you qualify for the opportunity of tomorrow. Now let me tell you, the diamond is not for decoration. It's for demonstration. It demonstrates what's possible. It proves that pressure can be endured, that struggle can be survived, that value can come out of difficulty. And your life can be that demonstration. People are watching you, your children, your friends, your peers. They're asking, how will you handle the weight? And your answer becomes their model. So don't waste the moment. Don't shrink under the load. Stand up, lean in, take it. Because when you do, you give permission for others